and thank you for joining me. This is my presentation on the sulfur horses and how to save them. I am aiming this presentation at philanthropists, scientists, just horse lovers in general, and people that would be interested in conserving a part of American history. So we'll go with our first slide. What is a sulphur horse? So a sulphur is a type of colonial Spanish horse. They were brought to North America after being brought from Spain to Central America during the New World. They went up through Mexico and ended up in Southern California and the rest of the Western Hemisphere. Pictured here is our little filly Tesora, who I bred a year ago. Yeah. The sulphur herd is located in southwest Utah, and there's a small area called the Mountain Home Range, which is very isolated. And one of the world's leading equine geneticists, Gus Cothran from Texas A&M, studied them in the 1990s and found that these horses from the Mountain Home Range had the highest Iberian markers of any feral herd in North America, meaning the most Spanish type markers. They are known for their dun coloring, stand about 13.3 to 15.1 with an average of 14.2 hands, and they lived for hundreds of years in that environment, which made them very hardy, very intelligent, great hooves, great stamina, and a really awesome mind. So sulphur genetics and phenotype. They're a type of colonial Spanish horse, not to be confused with most of the BLM's Mustangs. These are genetically very distinct with only a few exceptions. These horses, when Gus Cothran did genetic testing of them, if a horse has a diverse background, it will scatter across the map, and if they are a distinct breed, they will cluster. So sulphur horses, unlike most American Mustangs, cluster as their own individual distinct breed, meaning that their genetics are very unique, and they have had very little change from the horses that came over from Spain in the 1500s. They have tipped inward ears that are fawn-colored and black-rimmed. They have a dorsal stripe, and they can display a double or triple dorsal stripe. They have bicolored manes and tails often, zebra-striped legs, and facial cobwebbing or a mask on their face as well. They also are known to have 5 vertebrae in the spine instead of 6, which is a very rare trait amongst a lot of the horses that still exist today. So the origins of the sulphur horses, they are Spanish Mustangs that originated from horses from Spain that were brought to the Caribbean during the New World and then brought up through Mexico, as I had mentioned. There's many theories as to where these horses originated from, but the most common theory is that in the 1840s, during the largest horse heist in history, Chief Walcara, who was a Ute Indian, Jim Beckworth, an African-American cowboy, and Peg Leg Smith, an adventurer, led a raid of California's missions and rancheros for their most prized horses. They stole 6,000 horses, and during the raid, they were able to maintain 3,000 of them. And the sulphurs have been thought to escape from that raid and found their little spots in the Mountain Home Range in the Sulphur HMA. But in all actuality, we can't be sure where these horses originated from because thousands of horses were brought up and down the Spanish Trail for approximately 160 years, and the natives at that time also had access to Spanish horses by this point and were using them and riding them. Thanks to the genetic research, though, of Gus, we can be sure that the herd originated from 20 to 30 unique, predominantly dun horses, and that they contributed to what is now known as the sulphur horse. And the dun coloring is the first colors of the horse. The coloring didn't start changing into what we commonly see today until about 5,000 years ago. So these horses have the first colorings of horses. Some people call it primitive coloring. They're also believed to have, thanks to the genetic research, we can say that they originated sometime between the 16 and the 1800s is when this herd was established there in Utah. So the sulphurs are considered critically endangered by the Rare Breeds Conservancy. The Bureau of Land Management, or the BLM, their job is to sustain the health and diversity of public lands, but they don't consider the North American Mustang an indigenous species, so they are not obligated to protect them. And every few years, the BLM will pull horses from the different HMAs to keep the numbers low. They have their explanations of why they do that, and there is a lot of controversy around it. They have what is called an AML, which is an appropriate management level for an HMA, and they decide how many horses are allowed to be on the land. However, the argument is they put thousands of cattle and sheep on the public land, which they get paid for. And so people that love the American Mustang are vehemently against the BLM and what they're doing to the horses out there. So because of that, these horses are not protected, and it is rumored that the BLM will remove so many horses from the Sulphur HMA in 2024 that we will not have enough to maintain a viable community genetically. So right now, the last I heard several years ago, the AML, or the appropriate management level for the 267,000 acre HMA, was 165 to 250 wild horses, which means they only want one horse per every 1,600 acres, while thousands of sheep and cattle graze the HMA. So reasons we should preserve the horses: they have the highest Iberian markers of any North American herd. They are of great genetic importance in the New World and are one of the very few genetically unique horse breeds worldwide. They have both local and global importance for genetic conservation, and there's a very small minority of feral horses in North America that actually qualify as Spanish in type and breeding. These horses are a direct remnant from the Golden Age of Spain, and those horses that came from Spain are mostly or wholly extinct in Spain, and the colonial Spanish horse is all that's left of a genetic wealth from a time long ago. There's many laws out there that should be protecting these horses, which are listed here on this slide. And the horse is technically originally from North America about 58 million years ago. So if we can get, the government to recognize that and not consider them an invasive, introduced species, that would call for their protection. There are many organizations that support the Sulphur horses. The first two links are ours at Establos de Iberia. That's a picture of my family there. Oh, we got kicked out. Sorry about that. That was a picture of my family. So the first two websites are our webpage and our Facebook page. Let me get back to where we were. It's our stallion Diego. Okay. And then we have Horse of the Americas. They register colonial Spanish horses, Spanish Mustangs, Spanish Barbs, and the original Indian horses. The Spanish Barb Horse Association accepts sulphurs, as well as the Iberian Warm Blood Registration. Years ago, they recognized the sulphurs to have the same DNA parentage as parentage rights, as the PRE, PSL, and American Australian Andalusians. And so you could actually create an Iberian warm blood from an Andalusian, a Lusitano, or a sulphur. The Sulphur Springs Horse Registry is next, and they are located in Utah, and they were part of the American Spanish Sulphur.org website, which is the association founded in 2003 to preserve and promote sulphurs. Next is the Sulphur Horse Registry. That is the Facebook page that goes along with the registry, two links up. Then we have gaited horses with Spanish Mustangs there, globetrotting Spanish Mustangs, the Willowvale Spanish Mustangs, Spanish Mustang Registry.org, and the Center of America's First Horse. So all those are organizations that accept and promote sulphurs. Notable sulphurs. So here you will see Sulphur's Chance, who was probably the most famous sulphur. He was in a lot of magazines and competitions. And he is the sire of Pueblo there on the top right. Pueblo is the sire of our filly Tesora. He's 28 or 29 this year and lives in Palos Verdes. Bottom left, you'll see Renegade. He's the last living half sulphur with the sulphur gene for the curly hair. There are multiple curly hair genes, but he is the only living sulphur that we know of that carries it, the sulphur strand of the gene. Next is Bagheera. He's owned by Hatta Catalino. He was wild captured, and he does all kinds of amazing tricks like sits and rides bridleless, and she rode him bridleless across the country several years ago. On the right, you'll see Mad Hatter. She won the 2023 Reserve Champion at American Ranch Horse Association. And on the bottom left there, you'll see, or the very left, you'll see a video of her in the competition. Future plans for the sulphurs. Here's a group of us preservationists in 2022 out on the range, photographing the horses. My son on the left, me, my mom, Ron Rubido, who owns Sulphur's Chance, Naileen Neild, who manages the registry in Utah, Cami Severovic and her family, Mitch Wilkinson, who's written a lot of the articles on the genetic research for the sulphurs, Cami's son, and then Harry Fury on the right, who's a phenomenal equine photographer. So it is going to take private breeders, registries, the public adopters, philanthropists, magazines, all we can get to save these horses, and I'm not even sure that we will in time. The future generations definitely deserve to know them and to experience them. They're incredible horses and a part of our history, and they have a lot to offer the genetics of horses in the future. It would be a real tragedy to lose these horses before most people ever even knew they existed. Here's some more articles and me and my beautiful Diego. For further learning about the sulphurs, those first 4 articles are written by Mitch himself, and the bottom is the Livestock Conservancy on the conservation of the sulphurs. There's a little bit of information there. Here are my references, different articles about horses, some genetic research from Gus Cothran. I was able to interview both Mitch and Gus for this report, which was really exciting. And at the bottom there, you'll also see the Livestock Conservancy again. I really hope that this was informative to all of you, and I hope you'll be blessed. Thank you so much.